Look at this overgrown mess. Due to some events this past month, of which I won't go into on this gardening video, Marley and I have not been maintaining our garden. The weeds and grass are overgrown. Vines and fruit are withered, moldy, and rotten. And it appears there are fruits to be harvested. It's funny how life just happens and then all of a sudden projects go to waste. But all is not lost. Today, Marley and I are going to get to work and fix this place up. Okay, starting with the cantaloupe Brussels sprout broccoli bed. This one doesn't look that bad. All of the beds have grass from the yard overgrown that needs to be mowed and edged, so that's going to be a problem on all of them. But this one has a lot of grass growing in it and a lot of weeds, but the plants themselves look pretty good. Here's and I don't remember, I planted broccoli on one side and Brussels sprouts on the other, but I may have those backwards. I don't remember which side was which. But here's one of those broccoli or Brussels sprout plants right here. That one looks really good. Here's a cantaloupe vine. A lot more cantaloupe vines. This bed looks really good. We have some nice cantaloupe flowers starting, so not much trouble here in this bed. And this is interesting. This actually looks like...
That's a tomato.
Maybe. It's either tomato or carrot. I haven't grown carrots, so I'm not sure.
Let me see.
It looks like tomato or carrot, but if that's the case, it's just a rogue plant because I didn't plant any of that here. But it happens. But we have some nice tall grass stalks that we need to pull out of there. But this one doesn't look too bad, so now let's take a look at the next one. So Marley, you ready to get to work and fix up this mess of a garden?
Yep.
Okay, so I think the first thing we should do is survey the damage.
Yep.
Okay, so this is our strawberry overflow in the middle with our varieties of squash on the edges. And as you can see, not many squash left. This is a tragedy. Last year when I planted squash, I had a problem with the little green caterpillars, and I fixed that problem and have a nice little spray that I spray on them it's safe for animals and other plants, but it's geared definitely just towards the caterpillars. But this year looks like we've encountered a different type of caterpillar that bores into the fruit and into the, I think, into the vines themselves, so it's not a leaf caterpillar. And this was my promising squash that is no longer promising. And that's just one of the many casualties in this bed. Now the tomato okra bed looks very good. Other than being overgrown by grass and weeds, the okra plants, Marley, go stand over there, one of those tall okra plants.
Okra?
That's tomato. But you can see the tomato and the okra plants are about half the height of Marley, and they are a nice green, and the stems of these tomato plants are almost as big around as my fingers. So this bed, just like the cantaloupe bed is going to be really good once we just get the weeds out of it.
And this okra is to here.
It sure is. And I love the smell of the tomato plants. Tomato leaves just have that certain smell.
This looks like a palm
They smell
tree.
really good.
This looks like a palm tree.
Almost looks like a palm tree. Yeah, some of those weeds are pretty big. And the watermelon still hasn't really done much. Looks like about 3 of the vines are growing steadily. They're about 3 feet long, maybe 4 foot long on the longest. So a little weeding, and this won't be a bad garden bed, but the watermelons just didn't produce this year like they did the first year. The eggplants, I think I've reached the conclusion that the sunburn is a problem in the morning, because the plants on the east side are bright yellow, almost white, and the ones on the west of the bed are still a lush green. And if you look closely at these, so I think that morning sun that comes up from the east to the right of the camera is bleaching these out. So, and you can even tell by the eggplants. This eggplant is the easternmost eggplant that gets the direct sun, and it's yellow. And contrary to that, if we go around to the west side, the shaded ones are still dark purple. So I think what I need to do is erect a sunscreen on that side of the bed. The strawberries look like they've stopped producing for the season, which I think I've said before, and they've begun their growth outward. So pulling some leaves and weeds out of this bed is all that needs to be done. It looks like we have a few berries here that might be ready to harvest, a few holdouts. We get 1 or 2 every now and then that are still there. So that's, I think, the first thing we're going to do after surveying the damage is go through and harvest what needs to be harvested.
This one's bad.
Yeah, that one looks a little rotten. We should have.
But this one's perfect.
Yeah, that one might need 1 more day, but we've neglected the garden. We've just been so busy. And then the spaghetti squash carrot bed. Carrots are non-existent. I had 1 carrot down on this end, and I do not see it anymore.
Broke it. It was broken. Threw it out.
Once we go through the weeds, well, I had 2 here. 1 was done, and the other one looked like it was still holding on. So I'll look a little bit more closely at that. The spaghetti squash, a few of the vines still look pretty good.
All the carrots are gone.
This one, well, none of these sprouted. We had some sprout in the front yard, which we'll see also. Looks like some of the, about half the spaghetti squash vines still look really good, and they're 4 to 6 feet long, still green. Some of them are a little bit yellow. This one on the end is definitely rotten, and that was a nice fruit. And then the cucumber here in the high rise, I had a good cucumber here until it looked like it contracted the same vine parasite as the squash over there. So, and then my prize cucumber vine here that was fatter than my thumb, it looked like it suffered the same fate. Now I think it's a combination of a different kind of caterpillar and maybe some mold, but we also had some really weird weather this spring and summer. We had a very, very dry April. I would call it a drought. And then in May we had a week straight of rain, and it was, I won't say it was like hurricane rain, but it was a lot. So we had extreme dry weather to extreme rain to extreme dry back to extreme rain, and I think that's caused some problems, at least maybe with the mold and the withering. And then next to the cucumber, the never grown cilantro, so I'm not sure if this is what a cilantro plant does and flowers and dies. So cilantro plant, which is still tall, has produced lots of flowers. Not really sure what's going to happen with that. I've just never done cilantro. But what's interesting is the leeks down here have started to flower, and I didn't know that leeks and onions do this kind of thing, but at the end of the green leafy parts they get a little bulb of flowers, it seems, and they sprout out like that. It looks kind of neat. So I have, it looks like 4 leek plants that are still hanging on. 2 are doing well, and then I have a little piece of garlic here that's sprouting, and then some scallions, and these scallions are definitely ready to harvest. And a couple of scallions over there. And then this volunteer overflow bed here, the bell peppers are slow and steady. The one on the end is about 1.5 feet tall and has some flowers on it, so might be getting peppers off of that in a few months. One of the beets is withered, then grown back, starting to wither again, but I think it's going to be okay. And the cabbages are really interesting. I have, I think, 7 or 8 cabbages off of 3 plants. And the largest one there in the center is about the size of a softball. Well, wait a minute, that one over here looks a little bit bigger. It's a little bit bigger than a softball. So, oh, actually that one too is about softball size. So, looking pretty good. I always thought cabbages looked like the plant in Little Shop of Horrors. I keep waiting for one of them to start talking. Maybe if I prick my finger and... Nah, I'm not going to go that way. And the PVC experiment, I highlighted that already. Still doing well. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 plants, and they range from, I think, 3 or 4 inches up to the largest one at the top is probably about 6 inches long. That's the Swiss chard. Okay, and then my corner that I've been clearing, you can see the vines are already starting to grow back. We've had a lot of rain in the last week, but that's an easy fix. A quick run with the lawnmower. They're small enough I can just lawnmower that and then keep working on clearing that with my new electric tools. And then the orange tree is the orange tree. It has some, Marley, go see if you can find some of the bigger oranges. It's already starting to produce green oranges, and they will be ready about November. And I did notice a lot of them have turned yellow and fallen to the ground. This is the first year that's happened. Might have something to do with dry, then rain, then dry, then rain. We've had a very weird rain cycle this spring.
This one.
Yeah, that one's almost the size of a baseball. But
That one's the biggest.
yep, so we'll definitely have a lot of oranges still, even though a lot have fallen off.
This is probably the first one that we're gonna get.
Maybe. So we'll still have a lot of oranges in November. Yeah, and then of course the pink flamingo is still here. Nobody's stolen that. That's good. What do we name that? Did we ever name it?
No.
Oh, we'll think of a name today. How's that?
Perfect. Look at these oranges that already started to get yellow.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think maybe because we had a lot of dry weather and then some rain and a lot of wind. I think a lot of the little ones fell off, and then once they fell off the tree, they started ripening, but they're too little to ripen fully. And here's the carrot bed up front by the front porch, and some of these little carrots are coming along really well. And here it looks like another little lone tomato plant, so we'll let that grow. That is a weed. We're going to take care of that. But not a lot of carrots. I see, looks like 1,
2, no, 1, 2 over there.
2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like about 5 or so.
5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or
So less than half of them grew, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the real story is the pole beans. I'm going to have to back up because these pole beans are doing well. Very well. When we had the extreme dry weather and no rain, these did not seem to be affected by it. And then when the rain did come, they grew. And Right now they look like they're only about 6 foot tall, but they've already fallen down and grown twice that length and wound back down and back up. So I wouldn't doubt that if we were to stretch out these vines, they'd be 10, 15 feet long, some of them. And these are just regular old string beans, pole beans, Kentucky Blue and a couple other varieties. But what I did was I put some brackets up, and I'm going to run a string up there and then run strings down so they'll have something to climb. And I should have done that earlier, but like I said, we just had some busy months here with a lot of things going on, so just have not had time to get out in the garden. But we're going to fix that today. And this is the Jack and the Beanstalk one. Remember the Jack and the Beanstalk one? Marley planted just a handful of miscellaneous beans, a literal handful, probably 20, 30 beans in one hole just for the heck of it. Just like Jack's mom threw out there. And these beans are winding around each other and growing, so I'm going to have to put some string up for it also. And it looks like from the southeast we have another storm coming in, so we'll see how much work we get outside before the rain hits. I've been working a lot lately, and I'm so motivated to be out here. We might actually stay out and work in the rain. Do you want to stay out and work in the rain? We might actually do that. It'll feel good, be refreshing. So let's go harvest some fruits that need to be harvested, and then we'll start cleaning up the beds. How's that sound?
What harvest mean?
Harvest means pick. Ready ones. All right, you ready to go? Let's go pick some.
So today, when we were picking eggplant and stuff, I did all this, and it's just all over the place. You see, we have a bunch of kale, a bunch of eggplants, and that's the biggest eggplant of all. And we have one little strawberry down here. And I unloaded this all over the place.
Is that your eggplant kale sculpture with my water bottle in there? So this is another one of Marley's art arrangements here. We have about, I don't know, 30 or 40 kale leaves and 25 to 30 eggplants from that makeshift harvest, and we'll go through and be sure they're all good. Some of the eggplants might not be good, but we'll see. Anything you want to say about your artwork?
Well, I've been doing this for a long time. Well, I know how to do a lot of art and stuff, so I just decided I would make one of my arts, and I did a circle, and I put the strawberry there, and all the eggplants spread it out as I could. That's how you make a sculpture. And with the water bottle, and I put eggplants piled up, and then put okra, then put this all around it. This is kale.
There you have it, garden art.
Egg covered. I'm just going to change this for 1 minute. I'll do this one over here in the shade. Do you want me to pull a weed over here?
You want to?
I'll pull the weeds that I can get. There was a squash leaf. Squash skin, look. What was that?
Yep.
Yeah. I think we have a big weed pile over here.
Sure we do.
That means yes, Daddy. I'll help you with this one.
You can if you want.
Is this one of them?
That's one of the squash.
Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah. This was that nice yellow squash,
Uh-huh.
and something definitely got inside
We
and
took
messed
a
with
video
that.
of it.
Yeah, we did. After 3 partial days of work, all of which equals about 1 day of work, Marley and I were able to get this place in shape. Unfortunately, we were not able to salvage a lot of the spaghetti squash. This bed's going to be ready for a new crop. The cucumber in the tower is in the same situation as the squash. No major problems with the volunteer bed. And just about all of the squash in with the strawberry overflow have bit the dust. That brings me to the good news. The cantaloupe, broccoli, Brussels sprout box is flourishing. The eggplant and the kale still doing what they've been doing for 2 years now. Even the questionable watermelon box is doing well. And the main strawberry bed. The strawberry plants have started to spider outward, so I should be collecting some of the outer ones into pots for transplant purposes or give them away to friends or family who want some good strawberries. But that is a nice collection of lush green leaves there. And the okra and tomato box. I installed some 8-foot boards with string to give the tomato plant some support. So with a little neglect, but with a little of follow-up work, I did lose a lot of squash, spaghetti squash, zucchini, yellow squash, a variety of others. I think some butternut, acorn squash, a couple of other varieties, I don't remember the names, and cucumbers. Other than that, everything else seems to be fine. I still have some weeding to do. With all the rain we've been getting, the grass seems to grow a foot a day. That's an exaggeration, but I'm looking in the garden beds, and about 3 days ago I pulled all the tall grass out of there, and it's already grown back, so it just seems like it grows really fast. So a little bit more weeding, a little edging around the beds, and treating them for the parasites, and I think the garden is back in shape. As an aside, over here in my hay pile, looks like we have some kind of pumpkin or squash vine or cucumber that has volunteered itself out of the leaves and hay. So I'm going to attempt to transplant, put that over in the volunteer bin with the cabbages and see what happens.